Welcome to Mystery Us. I'm Tony Pratt, host of Mystery Us, and our guest on this edition of the program is Paul Von Ward. Paul is an interdisciplinary cosmologist and independent scholar who is the author of several books including Our Solarian Legacy, God's Genes and Consciousness, and his latest book is called Soul Genome, Science and Reincarnation. Welcome to Mystery Us, Paul Von Ward.
Thank you very much, Tony. I'm delighted to be with you.
Or should I say, welcome back to Mystery Us.
I enjoyed the first time so much that I decided to come back, and I appreciate your inviting me.
We discussed your latest book, which is Soul Genome.
Right.
But we're going to backtrack now and talk about your book, God's Genes and Consciousness.
Great.
Now, Paul, the subheading of your book, Our Solarian Legacy, humans are described as multidimensional beings in a self-learning universe. What
Right.
are those? What are multidimensional beings, and what is a self-learning universe?
What do those words mean?
Yes.
Well, the title, I used Our Solarian Legacy because I was trying to get across the notion that we humans are more than mere earthlings.
Right.
That we really are bigger beings in the cosmos, in the galaxy, in the universe, however you want to think about it. That book is really my cosmology. You introduced me as an interdisciplinary cosmologist, and I think I'm the only one in the world, because other people focus on just physics or on biology or mathematics or the evolutionary theory. I believe that a true cosmologist should look at all of the ways of knowing, all of the things that humans experience in terms of the perceptions they have, the information they have, the knowledge and experience they have in the universe. So that's being an interdisciplinary cosmologist. I use psychology, I use biology, I use physics, I use anthropology, I use history. The multidimensional universe, to get back to your question, is the way that we now think of the universe. We're not just a three-dimensional time and space or four-dimensional time space universe. We really have other dimensions, and string theory in physics has postulated up to 10 or 12 or even more dimensions.
Right.
And this is important in that book, and what I try to do is to describe how those other dimensions are the likely dimensions through which we experience things like telepathy, or precognition, or remote viewing, where we see scenes in another location. All of these senses, I call them the inner senses and the use of the subtle energies for things like psychokinesis. And that's a whole discussion
Which is moving objects with your mind,
moving
psychokinesis.
objects with your mind, or having an effect on, say, plants, or on other particles, or on other people. Psychokinetic experiences could be, staring at someone, as Rupert Sheldrake demonstrated in his experiments, and causing that person to turn their head and look to see who's staring. That's a psychokinetic effect.
Right. Do you think what's happening is your energy field is just extending to communicate to that person on some level?
Well, I don't think it's that mechanical, where we extend our energy field. What physics now suggests to us is that there's not a movement. It's something that they call the principle of non-locality, meaning that when you act in a thought, that what your thought is connected to through time and space reacts instantaneously. So it's not like sending something out, it's like thinking the thought and the action is there. You see, not here. There's a little difference there.
Right, and in some cases it can actually arrive before you send it, or there's...
Well, I would suggest that it arrives before you overtly send it, but not before the intention.
Okay.
In other words, as soon as you begin to form the thought, it's instantaneous.
Okay.
In a lot of experiments, Cleve Baxter, who does the work with communication between humans and plants and other biological cells and so on, he's demonstrated pretty clearly that that's an instantaneous measurement of the impact of the intention itself when it's first formed, even before you verbalize it.
Mm-hmm. Now we want to highlight your book, God's Genes and Consciousness. You want to hold it up and let the camera get a shot of it?
That.
It's got a really cool cover.
Well, I'm really proud of this particular book. This is a
hold
very...
it up just a little bit, please.
I need to get it up a little bit.
Yes,
we certainly want to have all the words shown, and I need to show Paul von Ward at the bottom and the title. Now, this book is the most, I think it's the most controversial one.
Yeah,
let me see if I can straighten it up there.
That's good.
Okay, I'm moving it around. There we go. Everybody can see that. Now, that book, like all the other books, are available in bookstores, on Amazon.com, at my website, online booksellers all over.
And your website is www.vonward.com.
That's correct, yeah.
And you can be contacted via email at paul@vonward.com.
Right. Now, the reason I say this book is more controversial, although the Reincarnation one may turn out to be controversial. It's only out a few weeks, and and we don't know what all the reaction's going to be to that. But God's Genes and Consciousness is much more controversial because
of the subheading, Non-Human Intervention in Human History.
You got it. Because what I do is I look at human history. You know, I've been to a lot of conferences on UFOs and ETs. I've been to a lot of religious meetings on angels and devils and so on. I've been to a lot of psychological meetings where people talk about hearing voices and psychic information that comes from other beings and so on. I've read history in the Bible, and I read about Yahweh on the mountaintop, not seen by Moses, but speaking to Moses. I read about Gabriel and the messages that he gave to Muhammad, who had them translated and transcribed and birthed another religion, and Moroni, who spoke to Joseph Smith and started another religion. And there are many, many examples around the world of beings who are more advanced than humans. And I say more advanced because they take the initiative to speak to humans. We can't really take the initiative. We can pray to them. We can send intentional thoughts to them. We can say, I'm ready to receive your message. But it's the being that's not the human being that takes the initiative. So for that, from that point of view, I use the word advanced beings. But what I did was I looked at all these, the religious text of old, the intermediate text of psychics and so on, and the current UFO ET stories. And I found that they were all very, very similar in many, many ways.
Right.
And so I said, if we as a modern society want to understand how all of these have influenced our own development, our own institutions, we've got to look at them as a scientific, objective observer. In other words, we don't want to make any foregone conclusions about what they are and where they came from and what their power is. Let's study the evidence. So that book, God's Genes and Consciousness, is an effort to take all of these interactions that humans have reported with other beings historically and right down to the present, and look at them as natural phenomenon, other beings, other species, other levels of consciousness, other dimensions, and look at how we have reacted to them. And that's the issue of the book.
But the implication is that there could be some kind, these advanced beings, whether they're interdimensional or alien, are interacting with humanity and sending them messages, doing things, and maybe the perception of angels are, I mean, they come from the heavens. Maybe the heavens is just the sky.
Oh yes. Well, if you look back historically, you see that the gods of old, that is, the gods who were worshipped by the Sumerians and the Babylonians and the Egyptians and the Hebrews and the early Christians and the Gnostics and so on,